So this is a ying loadout that's very similar to one that I ran before with the carry-on and the squadron. The idea being that you want beefy clones. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It makes sense. It's a good idea. But hear me out. There is, if not a better way, at least an alternate way to achieve the same results. Pretty much the same thing. Which is to take out squadron, which is the main culprit, because for 100 health for your clone per level, it's really not a great card. Not a great investment. So instead of this, you replace it with Fracture, which basically heals your clones for 20% of their health every time you right click a teammate with your life exchange heals. And then couple that with bumping Spring Bloom up to 4 or 5. So Spring Bloom is a card that every Ying should run in every loadout and every talent. Yeah, pretty much, at 4 or 5. Basically, you just say, hey, if you kill my clone, it's okay. I have another one at full health. And in the meantime, with Fracture, if you don't kill it, but you shoot at it, I can heal it, so it has a little bit more uptime. And you still run carry-on, so you still have that duration. And then Rewind fine, Brittle 5, standard, cool.
For so long. Which one?
So this is like a really small thing to note, but I like that you put the clone right behind the rock here. If I'm playing Io, I like to put Luna right here. If I'm playing Barrack, aka Mr. Human Turret, I like to set up here. This is just a good place to put stuff because you have your contesting. I mean, like, clone isn't contesting, but you are like, you have a lot of lines of sight here, but it's hard for the enemy team to do much to anything that's here. So very minor thing, but I like that you start off with a clone there. So you notice, Inara's late, but that's fine. You notice at this point, most of your team is starting to drift towards the right side, and you are going with them, which is good. So I would have waited like a little bit for this clone because it's actually behind a rock, and I'm not sure it's healing anyone. I would have ideally either put it just a little bit to the right, but honestly probably left of the rock so that it can heal through this sight line, and it can heal this way. So your team is still all the way to the left, and you are now, as a support, the rightmost, and I don't like that. I think as a support, you should not try to be the leftmost or the rightmost because you can just easily get wrapped on the right side. I know you check it a couple times and they didn't do anything, but it's just kind of a precarious position to be in. I feel like that was your first shots of the game. Could be wrong, but if those weren't the first ones, those are like the second ones. So you are allowed to shoot as Ying. Ying actually has a really good weapon. It's great for finishing off people who are low because, you know, it's hit scan, but it's also just good for poke because it's hit scan and, you know, they buff the range and yada yada yada. Yeah, she has one of like the really nice support weapons, so don't forget that you can left click things. You see that heal on the ROM right there? That was like not the first time you healed a full health ROM. You tend to do that a lot throughout the course of this game. Again, don't forget you can just shoot instead. You can do other things other than healing a full health ROM or like a almost full health ROM. ROM is actually one of the tanks that doesn't take a lot of healing from anyone. He has a lot of self-sustain. Again, this ROM was basically full health. You stepped off the cart and like walked a bit just to get like, I wish replays showed the healing numbers, and they don't. So I don't know how much this was, but it looked like 150 or something. Not necessary. Alright, this upcoming sequence, in like about 10-15 seconds, when your team is basically trying to like play around this tree, like after your ult. One sec. That was a good ult. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention. So I noticed you bought Chronos first, and that's a discussion that Sam and I had a while ago between do you buy Morale first or Chronos first as Ging. And at first I was like, I don't really notice the difference between the two. I tried both. And so I just kind of leaned towards buying Chronos because as a support, you buy Chronos, right? It feels comfortable. But Sam actually convinced me that if you buy Morale first, because Ging ult is so impactful, especially like early game when there's not that much cauterize, it's even more impactful. You really can't burst through it. Having Ying ult like super early on in a point fight, or just like having it ASAP, is so good, and it helps turn the tide sometimes, that Morale is just the buy. It's just the first buy. So I'm fully convinced of that at this point, and I would recommend you think about that. Yeah, so I would think Morale first, but your ult right here was good. You ulted as soon as you had it, but the timing worked out. It was just fine. So from here on out, your team doesn't really play main. They're just kind of like hugging this rock. And puts you in an awkward position where you start going from here, walking over, see, to here, then you walk back left, you drop a clone over here, then you walk back to the right, then you walk back to the left. It's very inefficient. Yeah, I think it's honestly very inefficient. So I think what you should have done is you should have just, for the most part, because your team is just behind this tree, like ring around the Rosie like in a half circle or so, just play the sightline. Stuff the clones here and here probably. So A, that probably heals your team better anyways, and B, it can be like your clones will take damage sometimes. Like basically your clones can act as like body shields sometimes. But if you put, like, putting the clones here, I feel like it's just less optimal. But yeah, like stay here for the most part. I wouldn't go past like here. If someone backs out main and they want to heal, I guess you can still see them if they back out to this angle. Otherwise, like, I feel like Inara died because when she was low here ulting, you happened to be peeking main. And then when also with Andro, you didn't catch a heal on him at the end because you again were like you were like here and you were trying to make your way back to here. I know you bought Nimble later on, but like in general, just this kind of waffling is kind of inefficient. So just play this sightline. And also it helps them to know, it helps your teammates to know where you are. And if you keep changing sightlines, it's really confusing. But I like that you backed out before when you saw that two of your teammates had died. Yeah, you trying to get that heal on Rom when he was full health was not super useful. You could have just shot people. That clone also not super useful. You could have just shot the term while he was ulted. I don't like that you walked all the way over for a heal onto Rom. Like, unless your idea was to reposition, but I feel like it was too much commitment, and he wasn't super in need of a heal yet. Like, he was still half, and again, it's Rom. So half health for Rom is like, I don't know, like more than 2,000? So I know you'd mentioned that you're like you felt confused or like not super comfortable on Ying's dim link. And I think part of the reason is because, I'm just gonna pause for a sec, because for the most part, you like to put your clones in like an arc like this, like at max distance in front of you. And that doesn't help when you're trying to dim link somewhere because you dim link two clones, right? So what you want to do instead is sometimes you don't want to put it at max distance. Think about that, right? Like sometimes you want to use it as a shield. Like you don't understand how many times as Ashe, which, you know, they have an Ashe on the other team, but when I'm playing Ashe and I have to play against the Ying and there's a clone in my face, I can't do shit. Like I'm like shooting and it's shooting the clone. I won't go over the clone because I don't know, it's a pretty decently big hitbox. It's just really hard to shoot around a clone. When I try to bash, sometimes I get stopped by a clone. It's so fucking annoying. So putting clones closer to you defensively is a good idea if you're getting pushed. Obviously, it's not going to help with like Zin's Yomi strike because that thing pierces. But for the most part, it'll help a little bit in general. And then also, if you're getting pushed or if you feel like you see that your team is starting to lose the team fight and you need to think about falling back, don't just start panic hitting your F key. What you want to do is the next clone that you have up, you want to put it behind you so that you can, and then like turn around and teleport to that clone, which you never did the entire game. So just, again, sometimes don't put it at max distance, and then think about putting it behind you, especially when you need to escape.
4, 3, 2, 1.
That's a full health heal. So that ult, I'm like not a super big fan of. I just feel like it was a bit preemptive. Your team had taken like 0 damage at that point. Maybe not 0, but it was like less than 1,000 damage. It worked out, but I think it could have been better.
An enemy is unstoppable.
Those are nice shots onto Ashe.
We've got a triple.
Like you did a good job in general hitting your right click. There's no point trying to Ying right click a guillotine ult, I don't think. Unless he had his soul armor, I couldn't really tell. I guess it's fine. If you wanted to make a play, what you could have done is to save your, whatever the thing just died was, your Tiberius. When you put your clone here, you could have actually just put it, dropped it here, hit your F, teleported to it so that you had better line of sight through here, healed him once, and then teleported away. If you wanted to. I think you would have been okay. I think you were just a bit late on the heals the entire time because you were trying to heal the Tiberius so far on the left. Yeah, I guess you thought you could have lived it, so you ulted. You probably knew as soon as you ulted that you weren't going to. It happens.
Enemy killing spree. Stop the payload. Attack.
Oh god. So you had like small moments like that when you were a little bit too keyed into like one heal or one play, like when you're trying to heal Grover there, and there was like 2 or 3 people like to the left of you that you were just tanking damage from. I mean, maybe if you put your clone a little bit closer to you, like they could have taken the damage, but no such luck. Excuse me. For a clone like this, so here's another example of why you don't have to put your clone like at almost max distance in front of you. Your team is kind of getting pushed back a bit through here. These clones are probably, if you put like these two clones are probably both gonna die very soon. So this one, you could actually just put it here. Sometimes I just like, you think about what sightline you're trying to get this to heal. Like no one's out here. They're all kind of pushed back in, right? So if you shove it here, roughly, it's gonna have the same effects. It'll still heal the same people. And it'll die less fast. So something to think about. I like your shots in general when you do take them because you don't just like mindlessly shoot walls or teammates or whatever. Rover did not need a heal there. Yeah, that's fine. I like how you're like, let me just ignore this Terminus to heal Grover. Valiant effort. I guess it didn't really matter because he was just siphoning anyways. Okay. If you ever have to like cross something like that again, and there's a Leon shooting you, first of all, you can just shoot back at her. That makes her screen check a little bit. She might miss. And then secondly, you could put a clone in front of you, like right here, to body block some of the shots. Yeah. And there's also, I'm not sure why you're trying to cross to here. You're fine just staying like here, not peeking things. I just don't really understand. Okay, I guess you put that clone down, kind of like a body block thing, but then you walked right past it. But I guess it's fine anyway. He was full health. So, it's not a big deal because they don't matter, but that clone I would have just put closer. So why not? Now you're getting pushed. You should fall back more. Did not need that heal.
10, 9, 8, 7,
And this part is like, okay, sure.
3, 2,
Nothing super interesting going on. So as soon as Rom gets ulted, you should think about falling back. See, this Ying clone did nothing. If you put it like slightly over here, it could have healed Inara for like a tick maybe. Yeah. I don't know if Grover's healable through the tree. Yo, okay, putting a Ying clone right when he's about to ult. No. Like here. Here's good. Here good. Here good. Cause you see how it, like, he killed it immediately. Like maybe you know this and you realize that you fucked up right after, but in case you didn't notice, I don't know. Also, I think this entire sequence here where you're playing not even just behind the tree, but like in front of the tree at this point, you're very lucky that you didn't get punished for it. As soon as they kind of pushed through here, when your Nara died ulting, I would have just gone back and probably either healed from spawn door lower or upper. Here is so dangerous. Like this Zen just didn't look at you for the longest time. I guess he was like, let me shoot the tanks instead because it's fun, but I just think he got really lucky. Like on a defense, you don't want to play that far out. Like Ying and Ashe could have, or not Ying, Xin and Ashe could have both turned onto you, and they just didn't. For whatever reason.
5, 4, 3, 2.
That clone, I'm not sure did anything. I'm not sure it will do anything. That's a good ult for Grover. He doesn't need a heal. He doesn't need a heal. You could, okay, so you were just like, I think waiting for your next clone or your next right click. This Ashe was really low. You could have just shot her. She was in your line of sight. You could, so at this point, maybe this is the wrong thing to do, but I like to do it a lot. I just let Nara sit on point while I push up a little bit just to get better healing. AKA this clone, I think people will be mostly outside of the clone heal range if they push up further. I mean, they might not be, but I think they might be. I would have tried to walk up a bit and put it like further up somewhere. He didn't need that heal. That's fine, he's just dead. So instead of... Alright. Alright, let's go back a little bit. So as soon as this happens, you need to like fall the fuck back. This Rom is full health. He does not need your help, and he had dash, and they have nothing to stop his dash. So you should be like much further back than your Nara at this point. Much further back. As soon as the Xin pushes you, you need to be thinking about maybe like a shot before this. You need to be like turning around and thinking about where, because you have a clone up. You want to be thinking about where to put your escape clone and then teleporting to it. So you're roughly mid of, I guess, center point. Left of point is okay. I guess no one's gonna really help heal for you at this point. So you're just gonna have to like try to find a corner that you can dance around that's safe. This side would have been okay. Just as long as you can stay alive enough and maybe your teammates will respawn and help you. Because you put your last clone so far up, you were so fucked right here. And he is still... Okay. Okay, that's fine. Whatever. You could have also, like, a little bit less optimally, but you could have also put a clone when you had it up. That last place I paused, you could have put a clone in front of you. It wouldn't have stopped his Yomi strike, but it would have stopped his other two swings. It would have helped you live a little bit longer. Nice shot and kill. Okay, right there, right after you took that cue from Leon and she starts walking at you, and you put the clone still here, this is the type of clone where you put it here. Or you put it like right here. So you either put it right here to like, in case Leon pushes you, and also it can heal you in the meantime. You putting it here literally does nothing for you. You can still heal the Inara off your right click, but you need a heal. Or you put it here or something so that you can escape to it. This, not a good clone. Ugh. I think you died to this Ashe because you're just so low. So you could have even put that clone that you just put randomly on point. So you got a tick of healing off of this one when you peeked it, but you're taking crap from these two. Okay, you're really low, and you put a clone here. So, alternatively, you could have put a clone all the way over to this left side and teleported to it and let it heal you up. And then just heal people off of right clicks, which is totally respectable. You actually don't die to the Ashe. Okay, it was a different play. Good shots. Look, you did ying damage things.
Magic the spell.
That's a good clone. Although I got booped right off. Nah, Termalt killed another Ying clone. You can ult right here. Okay, I guess I would have ulted like 2 seconds ago. That's pretty ballsy. I would have like, as soon as Leon did that, I would have just mashed my F key. You can always like mash it back like 2 more times to go back to where you were. But I can't believe you just like looked at her while she was ulting you, because if you hadn't killed her, she would have killed you in the next point, like 2 seconds. Alright, so this Ashe is pushing you. And you put a clone right where your other clone is. So, alternatively, you could have put a clone on the stairs to the right here, and then walked up the stairs. Much harder for her to chase you, because then she'll have to waste a movement ability. Maybe she doesn't even have it up. But she can't immediately poke you, and you can heal up a little bit in the meantime. So you kind of just panicked and put the clone in front of you and the other clone. So you kind of got fucked there. At this point, it's kind of useless.
No chance.
Your team, who didn't buy Cauterize? Your ROM or something?
Did I trick you?
That is such a commit, but I guess it's okay. Like if you were like sure no one was in need of your services elsewhere. Bye, Nara. I would have just hit teleport and then healed him. And then if the Zen didn't push me, I would have stayed there. If he did, I would have moved somewhere else. I would hit your F now instead of tanking more Ashe shots. So it's like, what? Too far back. Alright. So here, as soon as this is what you see, hit F, get behind her. So she like visually loses you for a second and has to turn around to realize where you are. Because right now, if she left clicks, she hits both of you at the same time. So that's like great for Ashe, bad for you guys. It's just free damage for her. I guess you do it eventually, but faster would have been better, I think.
15 seconds remaining. Kneel. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I think you played this a little bit better. You did a tiny little bit of the left-right thing, but very minor compared to the first time. I think your team mostly held main, which made it easier for you, I guess. That was a good ult. I liked it. And Nara just died in it because she took so much damage. I understand why you pushed up, because to maintain the OT. But as soon as you see ROM, put a clone behind here and teleport to it.
Enemy killing spree. Capture point spawning in
Alright, guess this is the last point fight because you guys backdoored. I don't actually remember what happened here.
3, 2,
He didn't really need that heal, but it's like whatever. So Grover doing that ult, which worked the time before, wasn't gonna work this time because he didn't have ult up, and that's probably something he should have thought about. Oof. Teleport. What are you doing? Okay, so you see the Ashe here. The Ashe kills the Tiberius. You know the Ashe is coming towards you. You still hear her. The next thing I would have done is not drop a clone right here. Teleport. Hit. You see where your two clones are. They're both on the right side of the map, which is not where Ashe is. So hit teleport to get away from her. Hopefully to this one, but even if it's to this one, it's fine. Because it's whatever. Close enough. And then put a clone down. Or, oh gosh, sorry. Or you could have teleported this way towards your tanks. Hopefully they give you cover. But basically away from the Ashe. Like right now you're a little bit isolated. This Ashe is just behind you. So even at this point, you still could have hit F and teleported to this clone. Any of those situations, you could have teleported away from that Ashe and not given her free damage. You can see an Ashe ult from pretty far away usually. Usually an Ashe will have it at the beginning of a round. Particularly when they are inting, you know that they have it. And a Ying clone is like your get out of free jail card. Like if you know an Ashe is gunning for you with her ult, that's another Ying clone killed. So I think you just have to be careful. Just there's no point wasting Ying clones like that. Just put it like here or like here, you know, just like whatever. But anyways, when an Ashe is gunning for you, it's actually pretty easy for Ying to get away from her ult if you kind of see it happening and you set your clones up ahead of time. And sometimes you're lucky and you don't even need to like particularly set them up. They just happen to be in good places. Ult. Okay, good. It's basically hard to have a bad Ying ult. The only like somewhat less good ones are like when your team has taken 0 damage. Like you had one like that. But every other time it's like, yeah, okay, someone's like not full health, cool, ult. Oh god, that Ashe I feel like could have killed you, but maybe not. Maybe it's the right decision for the Ashe. I think Tiger was next to you. You really like to shoot Leon while she's ulting. I guess it didn't burn you at all this game, so keep at it. But not all the time. So I'm sure like this is something you're well aware of, but late game when everyone has caught 3 on the other team, your right clicks don't do shit when your team isn't caught. It's literally 175, like whatever, pre-rejuve. So it's like you actually, I feel like most of the healing comes off of well-placed clones and well-timed right clicks. So I think you probably need to think about shooting a little bit more or like being more careful about your clone placements and also timing your right clicks more when it's late game. Okay, you reacted pretty late to this Ashe while I was talking. So blah blah blah, this is fine, it's fine. You didn't get caught in her ult. Great. You shooting her does nothing. You don't even have caught, so it doesn't even caught her. So you're lucky that she landed here and not on you. So what I would do is, you see how you have this clone up? You don't even need this clone, but if you wanted to, use this clone, put it like 180 on the other side of you. You can teleport through the stairs and then rendezvous with your team at the top of the stairs, or you can just not use a clone and just walk. If you walk, you force Ashe to walk out of her ult. Your whole team should turn for you at some point. She'll kind of be out of position. It's just kind of awkward for the Ashe. Yeah. Putting a clone there, you're still taking damage from Ashe. Again, that's just, you teleported to the, basically to the back of their team a little bit because you like to put your clones super forward all the time. I don't think you knew where that clone was going. I'm pretty sure when you ended up there, you're like, oh, I'm here. Okay, cool. Except not really cool. Okay. At this point, yep, falling back. Good.
Kneel.
It's okay. He was just
Did I
dead.
trick you?
You actually did a pretty good job, like, pocketing the fuck out of Grover here.
Enemy killing spree.
Although I think you did too good of a job because you died. You probably should have backed up a lot earlier, honestly. I think if you weren't your... were you duo? I don't know.
The faith.
I think if you weren't your duo, you would have backed up earlier. And then the game ends because backdoor happens. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I think you did fine. Just think about clone placement a bit more. Just, like, think about where you want the clone to heal. If it's gonna die, like, right away, and that's also why Spring Bloom is so good at 4 or 5. Think about left-clicking more instead of right-clicking pretty full health people. Also, right-clicking late game is not, like, super useful if you're only healing 175 every time you do it, so your other stuff is a little bit more important. Think about using clones as escapes, setting up those clones also. When you get pushed, don't panic, hit F, like, set up a clone first where you want to go and then hit F towards that clone. Hopefully Grover's little trick about, like, holding it down for a slight bit longer works, and that it takes you to the clone that you want to go to. Typically it's just the one you look at. Like, most of the time I end up there, but once in a while it throws me to, like, some random place. And if you don't put all your clones, like, right in front of you, you're not going to end up in their backline every single time you hit F. And then, like, don't react so slowly to an Ashe pushing you, especially if you, like, it's clear that she has ult. You can use your clones for escape, like, a lot. That's it.